I'd like to call to order the Hatfield Township Board of Commissioners regular meeting for October 28, 2020. Roll call.
President Zipfel.
Here.
Vice President Rogers.
Here.
Commissioner Andrus.
Here.
Commissioner Lees.
Here.
Commissioner Zimmerman.
Here.
Dean and Bob, and if you would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance this evening.
United States of America. Republic for which it stands. God.
Well done. Usually when I say that, people hesitate and stall out, and then we have to help them a little bit. All right. Actually, before we begin, I need to announce that we met in executive session to discuss personnel and real estate. All right. Is there a motion for approval of tonight's agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lees, second by Commissioner Andrus. All in favor of approving the agenda before you say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Consent items. Is there a motion to move into the record the consent items that are listed in your agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Rogers, second by Commissioner Zimmerman. Those consent items include the Board of Commissioners regular meeting minutes of September 23, the Board of Commissioners workshop meeting minutes of October 14, the Treasurer's report for the month of October, and the bills payable. Paid bills in the amount of $57,225.33, and unpaid bills in the amount of $950,375.31. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor of moving those consent items into the record, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. All right, citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments on agenda items? On Pittsburgh Steelers related, of course. Have more Pittsburgh Steelers. Oh, wow.
Just bring two of them. That's all you're gonna need.
I suddenly have an urge to adjourn.
Yeah. That could lead to bankruptcy.
All right, let's move on to our action items. Not a heavy evening this evening, but more to come, especially with our budget coming up within the next couple of weeks and months to discuss. Tonight, though, first is Resolution 2024. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the Cowpath and Broad LLC for the Wawa land development?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lees.
Second.
Second by Vice President Rogers. Aaron, are you walking us through this one?
I think Ken will summarize, and
And I can barely see over there, but I do see it.
Now, apologize for that. This project was discussed 2 weeks ago at the workshop meeting. This is the redevelopment of the northeast corner of Cowpath and North Broad Street. The previous use was a gas station and auto repair shop, and next to that was a transmission repair shop, all of which have been closed for some time and are the subject of this application. The plan will result in the demolition of all of the improvements on the property and then the reconstruction of the property as a new Wawa convenience store with gas pumps. The project has been reviewed and discussed by our Planning Commission, by the Planning and Zoning Subcommittee, by the County Planning Commission. It's been reviewed by the Township Engineer, the Township Traffic Engineer, and the Township Landscape Architect, all of whom are in a position to recommend approval at this point. The resolution's been prepared by the Solicitor's Office, and we just received a signed copy of that resolution today from the applicant. So the applicant has agreed to all of the conditions contained in the when it's ready for the board.
Those of you who were not here at our last meeting, we spent a fair amount of time talking about traffic around the location and the widening of the roads, yes.
Yeah.
The cutouts that are going to be in place at the entranceway, in particular as you approach the train tracks. If any residents have any questions or comments, or commissioners? None, then I will call the question. All in favor of Resolution 20-24, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Thanks, Joe. Next is Resolution 20-25. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the pension obligations for 2021?
So moved.
Motion by Vice President Rogers, second by Commissioner Andrus. Aaron, I think you have this one, right?
Sure, I'd be happy to summarize. Commissioner Andrus gave an in-depth overview 2 weeks ago. This is simply an annual obligation the township has to acknowledge and recognize the pension obligations for the upcoming year so that it's budgeted accordingly. We had a meeting here last week, our budget workshop, and these numbers were incorporated into the 21 budget, and as you can see, they are increasing at a rate that is becoming problematic. But a lot of this is driven by the market and the assumed returns, and it is based on one date in time when the actuarial report is produced, which in this case was 12/31/19. So it's how the market is performing as of that day, and then that report is done every 2 years. So it fluctuates as the market does. There are obligations for 21 for the township, for the 2 defined contribution plans. Commissioner Andrews went over the fact, I'm sorry, for the 2 defined benefit plans. Commissioner Andrews went over the fact that all new hires, non-police, hired after 2013 are on a defined contribution plan, which is simply a percentage of pay contributed to a retirement account, very similar to a 401k, which more people are familiar with. The police are mandated to have a defined benefit, non-uniforms not, which is why the township made that move in 13.
If my memory serves me, I believe that the funding levels in both of the defined benefit plans are in the 90s.
They are both well-funded, yes.
Very important. That's kind of a great indicator of the health of the plan, and this will up into the 90s, I believe, all right, any questions? Residents, commissioners? All right, if not, I'll call the question. All in favor of Resolution 20-25, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Action item number 3. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the capital purchase of Caterpillar 306 excavator in the amount of $79,569 as budgeted?
So moved.
By Commissioner Lees. Second by Commissioner Andrus. Aaron, I know that this is a housekeeping item, but why don't you walk us through it?
Sure, Mr. President, I'd be happy to. This was an item that was budgeted for 2020. It was initially then that purchase was paused in the spring when COVID first began. Now we have a better understanding of our financial picture. So we talked about it with the commissioners specifically last week as well. And rather than budget for it in 21, we just decided to incur that expense in 20 because it is needed for several projects here in the fall as we finish our year up for the Public Works Department. So the Public Works Department will not have a capital purchase in 21, but this one will happen at the end of 20 instead.
The reason we call it a housekeeping item is because, as Aaron explained, it's as budgeted, and some years ago we started a practice of, even though budgeted items are already kind of approved, if you will, when it's a larger capital purchase, best practice is to include it in each of the agendas, and this qualifies for that. Questions or comments? All right, if none, I will call a question. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Action item number 4. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the Cowpath Orvilla Road Realignment Project? It's a payment to Blooming Glen Contractors in the amount of $31,275.95.
So moved.
By Vice President Rogers, second by Commissioner Andrus. I think that probably people are hoping for an update more so than
Yeah, sure.
the question of the payment issue.
Sure. So this one is payment number 4. And as we talked about 2 weeks ago, the detour was predicted to begin, and it did begin as predicted, as announced 2 weeks ago. So the detour is in full effect until the project completion at this point. They're out there even despite the rain. They've been out there, and we hope that they'll be out there continuously now for the next month to 6 weeks to finish up the project.
Comment. I saw a driver try to make a left-hand turn onto Orvilla. Well marked. Do you have any flashing lights or anything we can put there just to fact they can't turn there?
So there are a few homes that still need that access at this point, so it may have been one of them. If it was a rogue motorist, I'd be happy to talk to the team out there to see what we can do to prevent that for sure.
We're lined up behind the cones and then realized they didn't. and tried to make a left, and then they pulled off again. So,
Sure, we can look at that, for sure.
All right, any other questions or comments? Not all call the question. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Action item number 5, is there a motion to award the contract to Republic Services for $14,162 for leaf pickup contract for the weeks of November 2, November 16, and December 7? By Commissioner Zimmerman, second by Vice President Rogers. Aaron, I think you're up to bat for this one and the next one.
Sure. This is our annual leaf pickup program that everyone is familiar with. Republic is the same vendor that performed this function the last several years, and actually this price is the exact same as 2019. So that is good. For those weeks, make sure you have your bagged leaves at the curbside by Monday morning, because those weeks, there's no particular zones chosen. The contractor gets through the entire town along that week. We don't know where they begin or where they end, so it makes sense to have your bagged in a biodegradable bag full of leaves curbside by Monday morning of these 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Every year we get feedback on which 3 weeks are chosen. Sometimes too late, sometimes too early. We think we may have hit a sweet spot this year. We'll find out, but there's always a few stubborn or eager leaves out there.
Always. All right. Any questions or comments?
do you know how many tons of leaves they pick up annually?
I don't. It's a good question. I should look
Back
into
number
that.
of bags? I'd like to know what the
I'll find out.
effectiveness is. I hate to think we're paying $14,000 from them to pick up 100 bags.
We put out about 35 or more on just my yard.
Yeah, I was going to say, I put out about 30 out of my yard alone, so.
70.
We're to
Understand the
65 already, so.
Well, there you go.
5 of them.
I'll see if they track that. It's a good question. I know it's utilized significantly, and we hear a lot about it. But I'll see if we can get some data. It'd be interesting to see.
All right. Unless there's any other questions or comments, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion to award the contract, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Our last action item, ordinance number 692. Is there a motion for approval with regard to the early retirement incentive?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Lees. Second by Vice President Rogers. I think it's your last one for the night.
Where I announce my retirement. Not that early of a retirement.
Denied.
We talked about this 2 weeks ago, Commissioners, similar to what was offered in 2013 as we approached budget season, and we talked about it last week as well, more in depth, how we're doing our best to cut costs where we can, and this was an opportunity for some of the employees that are very close to retirement age to take advantage of this program and allow the township then to hire some new staff at a reduced rate, so there's a cost savings to the taxpayers. And a very limited amount of people were interested and qualified from a requirement standpoint from years of service to participate in this. So not as significant as it was in 13, but nonetheless a nice thing to look at every once in a while.
Questions or comments? Okay, then I'll call the question. All in favor of ordinance number 692, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that is approved. Citizens' comments. Any citizens' comments on agenda items or non-agenda items?
Mr. President, just one more item, just so everyone's aware. Our schedule flips next month, so we'll be back here next Wednesday for our 4th straight Wednesday, 1st and 3rd Wednesday next month, and then December, just the 16th, so just one meeting in December due to the holiday schedule.
Okay. Next Wednesday. Or paraphernalia for employees. All right. Unless anyone has any questions or comments, I'm going to entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there such a motion?
Second.
By Commissioner Zimmerman, second by Commissioner Andrus. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, we're adjourned. Thanks for coming out, folks.